Welcome to the Weather Report with your host, Matt McGregor and the great Socrates. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to you, Socrates, and good midday to me.
Cheers, good to see you again.
Yeah, it was great. Sock and I did that show, the 5-6 hour live stream on Tone Vase's channel. Was it 2 days ago for election? It was absolutely brilliant. It was a pleasure to see you that time. I'm sure you went through some of the things that you want to talk about today, but what I'm really interested to see and get your opinion on, a few people have asked me about it, how that hyperwave is shaping up on Bitcoin, the potential hyperwave, phase 3. That would be really exciting to have a look at. We went through it a little bit the other day, so I can't wait to go through that with you. I'm just going to quickly go through my charts, and then we can kick on to the main show, which is you, brother. So let's have a look. All right, on last night's show, with the price of Bitcoin was at about 74,500, and it was just and I mentioned in the show, like, it's been a red day, but I'm really satisfied that this red day is not a bang down to retest the 7 simple moving average. I really liked, even though that candle was red at the time of filming, that we were just in a holding pattern. We didn't give back $5,000-6,000 of that $7,000 run that we'd had up on that previous candle. I thought that if we could just meander, and just tread water for a bit, that when the US stock market opens and we get some more clarity on that, we should finish this candle as a green candle. And yep, we did that. The MRI count on the daily time frame is fantastic. Today is sort of doing that same thing that yesterday's candle was doing, but it's still in that holding pattern. I think a lot of people are in that wait and see. Are we going to, it's very difficult to long from this point right now, considering you just missed a $7,000 daily candle. I mean, that's a real hard pill to swallow. But I think that when people come to terms with 75 being the new thing, like, when it's such an amazing psychological thing that 75, 76, when you hit it the first time, it's the most incredible thing in the world. And then it's like 75 becomes, what have you done for me lately? Very, very quickly. And people start to lose interest in 75. So when 75 becomes a normal thing, it might, even if we have to trend sideways, we get up to 78, we come down to 73, we stay in this zone. That's when 75 becomes just average, and then people will be satisfied to start loading up again at 75, in my opinion. That I pointed out in the show that we did 2 days ago that I really liked where Socrates' EXA cross happened here on the daily time frame. That gave me a real amount of confidence to really get in long up even more in this trade that I was currently in. I was satisfied on the weekly time frame with the EXA and how that had been shaping up as well. I'd been keeping a really close eye on that. We had that fantastic cross back down here at 53,000, which I was really rapt about. That it had been flirting with crosses regularly. We'd had a cross here, it didn't follow through. It had a cross here, it didn't follow through, and it kept having these little naggy crosses, which is quite unusual for the EXA. You normally get a bit more kickoff. And so I was waiting, and I kept loading up on every one of these crosses, and then I got this one. So that it worked out really well, which made up for a bit of chop in this period back here. It made up for it in spades. So that was really fantastic, and credit to you, mate. The RSI looks really sensational. I'm really interested to see on the RSI on the weekly time frame if we can avoid putting in any divergence, which at the moment, you got to say it is putting in a bit of divergence on the RSI, that the highest points were back here, and we're now exceeded it in price, but we haven't exceeded it in the RSI. I'm not concerned with it at this point, because I still think there's plenty of room that we can tear up and put in, just completely cancel out this divergence. But it's noteworthy. It might be noteworthy in 3 months' time that I didn't take more notice of that, if we can't put in higher highs on this RSI. But I think there's a great possibility that we will. The purple phantom signal on alpha numerics here was absolutely brilliant. I was calling this, back here at 63. I'm like, this week we're going to get this purple flip on the weekly time frame. This is always historically except for the Black Swan event that we had in 2020, an absolute banging signal, which we had back, in October 23. We had another one back here in January of 23. They're just absolutely cracking long-term, um, bias changing signals. And of course, on that same candle, which was an absolute beauty for me, I'll never forget this candle. This is a historic candle for me on the weekly time frame because we were able to break that descending channel that we'd put in. We got the purple phantom signal come in on the weekly time frame. We had a green star MRI count, and we broke my modified Lucid SAR, flipping the wave green. So and we also had the bullish cross on the weekly time frame on alphanumerics with the 7 crossing the 30 simple moving average. I had every single duck in a line that I possibly could ask for all happen on the same candle, which is rare to say the least. So, I got very, very long at 60,500. And on the show we did 2 days ago, I added an extra 5x leverage to the position. So I'm now 20x long from 63,077, and 350% up on that trade, feeling really, really good. And it's a pretty sizable trade too. So I don't know when I'm going to close this position. When I got in at 60,000, I envisioned staying in this trade to 100,000. But having added now up to 20x leverage, I have to keep an eye on the funding rate, which at the moment is favorable, but I have to monitor that. If that starts to get excessive, if I'm up 500% on this trade, it might be tempting to take it and then perhaps re-enter the trade at a 2x leverage or something like that, but use all the money that I made in that trade to lessen the leverage, deleverage the position. That's what I've got on the weekly time frame. I'm feeling really great. We've got 2.5 days left, nearly 3 days left in this week. Love it. Absolutely love it. I'll just go down to the minor time frames of 4 hours just to have a quick overview of what we're doing in real time now. We're above all the moving averages. Yeah, absolutely, mate. We're above all the moving averages on the 4-hour time frame. We got to an MRI top, but then it just started the count again. We're just consolidating at the top. I really like where we're sitting. Yeah, sure, we could come back and retest the breakout of the all-time high and all that sort of stuff. But as it stands right now, there's nothing to do. We are fully locked and loaded in all the positions. Guys, please take advantage of the fantastic bang box that we have. It still hasn't entered a trade yet because this price is just tearing away. But we will definitely get a reset soon, and you want exposure when that comes in. Look, have a look right now. We are flirting with getting a reset on this bot, and all it has to do is close below the 128 period moving average to do so, and then we're ready to rock and roll once again. Sock has gone for a drink, so I'll have to tread water for a minute. I'll come off screen share and wait for Sock to come back. Guys, I have in beta right now our brand new bot, which is inspired by the MRI, and my lord, does it look good. It's in beta right now. I can't wait to release it. We're maybe a week away from releasing this brand new bot, so you'll have access. And the beauty of this bot as well, you're going to have, it's actually 3 bots: a 5x leverage option, a 10x leverage option, and a 15x leverage option. Absolutely brilliant. And all the criteria for your stop losses, trailing stop, and everything all gets recalibrated depending on how much leverage you decide to use. So it's basically the same strategy. It's exactly the same strategy, but it'll have totally different exits and entries and everything like that. So absolutely fantastic. In beta right now. Socrates, I can't wait to hear what you have to say. And just a bit of housekeeping. We are recording this show. It's not live right now, but we'll premiere it in a few hours. So hopefully everything that we say in the next 6 hours is still relevant, but I think it will be. Sock, what are you seeing, brother?
Yeah, as you kind of mentioned, not a whole lot has changed since we last spoke on the election stream, but I'm sure a lot of people didn't necessarily tune into all of that. So I'll be happy to kind of rehash what we were looking at, and very, very happy to see that we didn't get a very sharp reversal off of the high tests, like still kind of the big concern when we last spoke. And I think now it seems like the winds are at our back, and it's time to be paying close attention. So we'll be happy.
I love doing these shows with you, Sock, because you always blow my skirt up with some really high figures of like projections, and you always it gets me really juiced, so I can't wait to hear it. Let's launch into it, mate. Let's crack through.
Well, now that you say that, I guess I better get another chart pulled up because it was something we were kind of talking about, but I didn't really have illustrated. So,
You want to whack screen share on and take us through it?
yep, absolutely. Just kind of pull up this other chart on the side. Okie dokie. Something's going on here. Just try to fix. There we go. Share screen.
Yep.
And share this one. Let's see here. So we'll start out with, I have actually added a new section to the daily weather report that I like to post on X, and that's at the top of the list now, which is this hyperwave. I think when we get a hyperwave structure, to me, that kind of overrides basically everything else, because that's when the oscillators, like Matt was talking about, the RSI kind of being a concern potentially for a divergence. And one thing that I learned about hyperwaves early on was that when they happen, all of the oscillators just kind of redline and ping to the top and give, even when they do get a divergence, as long as the hyperwave is intact, it's not something I would worry about at all, except for, like, he even mentioned, like, if it was to happen, it would take a couple months. And say we do get some sort of RSI divergence here, I would just be reading that as a signal that we're going to return to the phase 3 trend line. So one of the main rules that Tyler always harped on, Tyler Jenks, was that you don't really have a hyperwave until it enters phase 3. When you have something like this, which I have been kind of looking at for months on end, and did originally have drawn like this, and felt like really gave up on it in here and needed it to reclaim all-time highs before I would be willing to reconsider a hyperwave structure. So now I have adjusted it, and again, it's not a hyperwave when it's just a phase 2. That all that is a breakout from horizontal resistance and trend, like a linear trend. Another thing that Tyler really harped on was that hyperwaves require a paradigm shift. Paradigm shift is something that changes the world. Bitcoin
A catalyst.
is a paradigm shift in and of itself,
yeah.
But the paradigm's already been shifted now that it's been here this long. That was kind of the catalyst that he talked about in 2017, when the cat got out of the bag. The paradigm shifted when Bitcoin reached kind of mainstream adoption, and that was the catalyst for the prior hyperwave. And now we have a new potential paradigm shift with what we've seen over the last 4 years is an administration that's been hell-bent on suing crypto companies, making it so that every exchange has to KYC, making it as hard as possible for crypto to gain that next level of adoption that is like, my opinion is the last cycle we didn't really see a whole bunch of new adoption. Like, there wasn't more people that I knew that were buying Bitcoin during 2019, 2020. Like, that was, I think, largely spurred on by money printing that we have been experiencing our entire lifetimes. And I don't think it was necessarily a paradigm shift that we printed money and gold, Bitcoin went up. That's just kind of to be expected. And it was also not a hyperwave. So I am very, very interested in this chart first and foremost. Trump gets elected, and the Republicans win the Senate and we win the House, and we have had Republicans introducing bills to buy and hold Bitcoin in a strategic reserve, which couldn't really happen until there was enough support, enough in the right places. And like we've seen what has happened, like Germany, they were dumping down here at the lows to buy money that they could print themselves. That is in stark contrast to government officials who are introducing legislation to buy Bitcoin at prices that they can always afford as long as they can continue to print money. And I firmly believe that this is a paradigm shift. That long story short, I think this is a new phase three. And
I've got a question for you. You see, I have a funny feeling that the US now won't actually buy all that much Bitcoin in its reserve. But what it might do is not sell and crush the market of the Bitcoin they already hold.
and
Which
either
is
way,
just as good,
I wouldn't have necessarily a strong opinion either way, but either way, we've been running into selling pressure from nation states for years. Like that is what they have been doing, and if they just stop
Exactly.
selling and they don't even start buying, then that now we have wind at our back.
Yeah.
And I really do think that any smart politicians who's thinking beyond their next election, any head of a nation state um, has so much incentive to buy Bitcoin, to buy spot Bitcoin with money that they print themselves. It's Michael Saylor has proved that if you can raise funds and just buy Bitcoin, your stock goes up, and then you can raise more funds, and then the price of Bitcoin goes up because of your buying pressure. Like there's so much precedent set. And something else that I did want to bring up is that I think the most important thing that happened today was Jerome Powell said live on TV. I'm not sure if you said this. He was asked if Trump asked you to step down, would you? He said nope. And then they asked, well, he wouldn't be able to make you step down. He said nope. He said in front of everybody that the Fed is more powerful than the president unless the Fed gets abolished. And this is years down the road. But I really think just today, the groundwork was laid for the American people will be completely unwilling to allow for a Jerome Powell who is non-elected and runs a private for-profit company to be above the president when there's constitutional laws in place that would allow the president to abolish the entire operation altogether. And we've seen this happen in Argentina. Like this is starting to the precedent is building and building upon itself. The momentum is building, and I'm getting off on a tangent here, but you like my big targets, and this is the fodder for the biggest move that Bitcoin could that we've all talked about since anybody brought up the word hyper Bitcoinization. It's happening. The main key to hyper Bitcoinization was when government states start buying and holding Bitcoin, because that's going to put them on a sound monetary standard that sets their country on the right side of the future, opposed to the wrong side, opposed to borrowing from future generations, which is what we have been doing for so long. So I've never been more bullish on Bitcoin, and I am so happy to see that we have I guess I'm just realizing our faces while we've been talking aren't on the same screen, but so happy to see that we have a potential new paradigm shift that has entered the Bitcoin ethos, and we have a pattern that is to be expected if that is a real thing that's going to happen. So
that's brilliant, mate. That is really exciting, and that hyperwave structure, as it stands right now, and as you say, like, at what point can we confirm that phase 3? Do you think a retest of the phase 3 line better as respect of that phase 3 line, or can we assume that that has now occurred, especially considering the catalyst, I think, is in? I think you can say that.
Yes, for me it was making a new all-time high, and like right here, like if we were just to kind of peak above and then wick straight back down below, that doesn't count. But to make a move above, and then when we were on the last stream, this is what I was worried about, is that we were just going to
Me too. Me too.
potentially do.
And I think that everybody was, and that was the crux of my analysis. The fact that yesterday, when I was doing the show with Tone last night, I have to say last night, my time, yesterday, your time, I was satisfied that the price, even though it was a red day, it had only, stayed down like $1,000, $500. It hadn't crashed $7,000. And I thought that we'd finish green on the day, and we did. So I mean, that was really a big confidence move, I thought, in the price.
100%, yeah. Like if I had to say when it was confirmed, I would say on today's close. To me, it didn't matter so much that it was red or green.
Yeah.
It mattered to me that it stayed very close to yesterday's close.
Actually, that's exactly what I said. I said it doesn't matter if it finishes red, but it's this area that I really like. Yeah, I completely agree. Completely agree. All right, what else? What else?
Where I think that that's phase 3 for me is confirmed is that if we do take out new highs in Bitcoin, we should accelerate. That's the whole idea of a parabola, is that you every time you make new highs, you really need to explode, to not follow the prior rise over run. So if it does come back down to this trend line, or closes really below this one, that's a massive problem for me. Expecting this to really accelerate through the highs. And so, yeah, I think this is confirmed. And I think that now we need to accelerate through. And before revisiting, I wouldn't wait for this to confirm. But hyperwave theory says that you don't have a hyperwave until phase 3. This is the earliest you could really even say that it's phase 3. I'm sure Tyler would at least wait for a weekly close above. Yesterday's strong action around the highs gives me a high degree of confidence that we will close above on Sunday. And so the best buying opportunities are revisiting the phase 3 trend line, which, kind of like Matt was mentioning earlier, with like 75K being like a pretty critical psychological level. I would love to see price just accelerate to the upside, and then have a chance to revisit this trend line around that critical level to throw back to kind of not necessarily the prior all-time high, but a critical psychological level. And that leaves maybe even a little people who are waiting for this on the sidelines. That's how you accelerate, is if you turn prior all-time high into support, you're linear. Like if you do this, you stay linear by turning prior all-time high into support. The way you go vertical and parabolic is by failing to turn the all-time high, the prior all-time high, into support. That's what causes the acceleration of rise over run. So that's what we'll be looking for going into year's end. And I think we are just all clear skies ahead going into the yearly close. So we'll be,
for somebody who's unfamiliar with your work, and it's probably a minority on this channel. Do you happen to have an example saved anywhere of what a hyperwave and the phases look like? I know you'd have 1,000 of them on your computer, a question without notice, but like just to demonstrate what a phase 4 looks like. It doesn't have to be on Bitcoin, on any historical chart.
I'll just go back to the first one that I ever really experienced and started trading real time. Is like that's what makes Bitcoin so hard to really trade like long term and profit from the biggest moves, is the nature of which that it accelerates to the upside. So like back here in like February of 2017 or so, like this was like this is kind of what we're waiting for right now, right? Is this massive sort of melt up to the upside after trying to take the highs, getting the correction, and then this is what we're looking for, right? But this would only be like the very beginning. This wouldn't even be phase 3 yet. This would only be potentially the start of phase 2, which is the first, the lowest close following breaking out of phase 1. So this would have been phase 1. And then here's what happens is that, right? So like this is what we're really, really hoping for. This is a weekly chart. And this would just be the most glorious thing in the world. This was a 100% move. So like this would take us like to well above 100,000 just to move like that. And that would knock everybody's socks off. Like you couldn't really, it'd be hard to comprehend how much higher price could go after that. And then we see how it fails to even return to the trend line because it makes a new all-time high and accelerates from there. So we would look at something like this being a long phase 1, a phase 2 that returned 100% in a relatively short amount of time. 5-6 weeks doesn't feel so short. Like after, like after everything we've been through, 6 weeks from now doesn't seem like a short amount of time, but it is. And then so let's remove that. So, and then we managed to take out the all-time high again. We didn't know where this trend line was going to be until basically we took out the all-time high again. Is when you could say like for sure this is something to at least consider. And then see how it continues to accelerate. The candles expand more than they did before, which causes an even greater rise over run. Like if we were just to kind of draw it through, like what is the average increase in price divided by the amount of time it took, you see that it starts to increase. And then boom, like after waiting forever for this to happen and not even being able to believe that we're above 100,000,
total disbelief. Yeah,
growing back to like whatever 85, 95, and just hoping to God that we support it, and then just accelerating from there. And nobody really knows what to think at this point. Like that's what it's designed to do, is get these threshold, your dopamine threshold in your brain constantly triggered to where you just can't handle anymore after seeing not only a move like this, but then like this, and then like this, and then what happens after that.
And just to jump in there, that with that dopamine as well, that's a perfect way to describe what I was talking about before, how 75 feels euphoric today.
Yes.
And next week 75 is like fucking rubbish. Do you know, we're going to 0. Do you know, like you just need more, you know?
That's absolutely right. And it's so hard to like that's like the hardest thing about trading parabolic markets is when you're sick to your stomach by how much has gone up.
Yeah.
You got to know how to hold for more. Is like that, like when it's hardest to hold on to profitable positions is when it's like the most important to do so. And then when you become so complacent, like after this happens, is literally when the complacency sets in and you're like, okay, well, I thought the top was here.
Yeah.
Like I was just praying that we would even eventually get here. And then when this happened, it was like, well, I was a fucking genius for not holding. And then when this happens, it's like, excuse me, for not selling, for just never selling, for continuing to hold. And then when you get this, it's just like God complex shit or something. It's like this will never ever not continue going up. And the only people that are winning are the ones that aren't selling. And it's just amazing how the Wall Street cheat sheet, like the level of emotions of like disbelief
I was going to say it. Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's truly incredible to me. It's a,
I got boned a few years ago. I'm not a shitcoiner, guys, but I just saw a really good trade because Cardano in 2018, maybe the top of the market when Bitcoin was nearly 20,000, was up at like a dollar or $2 or something like that, and then it dropped all the way down to 4 cents, and I bought it at 4 cents. And then when it started to run again, I sold it at 20, 21 cents, something like that, and thought I was, a genius. And it was a good trade, no doubt about it. But the fucker went to about $4. It's like, God damn it.
that's I think like an extremely important topic is the conviction. Like having conviction in something is the only way that you can really hold through from all of the sideways, like the little shoot up, like to the only way to actually hold through something for long term. It takes a whole lot of conviction and a lot of risk management. If you're overexposed, you're gonna sell it like right at the lows because it terrifies you how much you could lose. And if you have proper risk management, but it's not something you really believe in, it's just something that like you
Yeah.
want to
If you
kind of
can't,
take
yeah.
some money out of the market,
Yeah.
then that you're probably going to do a lot better long term than people who like are super convicted in like meme coins like long term and stuff. Like so it's kind of the only way to really capitalize on these really big moves is to have conviction to your core that this thing really is worth much, much, much more than wherever it could even go in the next few years. But that doesn't necessarily imply that extremely volatile speculative assets that you don't have conviction in, if you manage risk properly, you take these scalps and then some you'll look back at like, oh shit, I wish I would have held
Yeah.
that from here to here. But that's just, if you
That's
didn't have
the game.
conviction then there's no reason for the price to be conviction.
That's the game. So let's go into phase 4 here of what happened in this example.
So yeah, I mean, anybody, I think a lot of people are kind of around this time that are watching and following. Anybody that was there remembers just kind of like never, like you couldn't even, nobody was even talking about 10,000 when Bitcoin Cash is forking, and then there's new BL2X who's trying to fork, and it's pandemonium. It's like nobody has super conviction in this environment that we're going way higher, and that's the ideal recipe for something that just blows everybody's minds to the point where there's like, how are you going to find a way to hold through all of this and then start thinking about selling up in here? That is where I became so intrigued with hyperwave, is that it gave me very objective rules for where is the best time to buy. It's phase 3 trendline retest. Where is the best time to sell? Well, it's exactly after the phase 4 trend line gets broken down, and definitely after you get like, so this would be phase 5, 6, and 7 would start here. After you get a vertical, like a near 90-degree vertical sort of move to the upside, which it seems like that's like one of the hardest things. Like it seems like this is a 90-degree vertical move to the upside, but no, it only turns into like the beginning of a third, like that'd be like 30 degrees, 60 degrees, 90 degrees. Once you have that sort of action, and then you get that closer to 90-degree trend line broken, well, now you have a very good pattern model thing that you can use to determine when is the time to buy, when is the time to hold, when is the time to sell during a parabolic market. And something else is like, nobody knows like how long, like how far it could go. Like in when it's going up here, like it's already 90 degrees pretty much here, and you don't know how much further. The euphoric blow up top is always higher than any reasonable person could ever expect, and just kind of having a idea of what to wait for, what to hold through. Yeah, that's
Let's just hypothetically jump back to now today. If we consider this hyperwave valid right now, which I'm all ears on that, where does the phase one line start? Because that's what I don't want. The end of the hyperwave to retest 28,000. That doesn't doesn't sit well with me.
well, which like it was kind of like that's exactly what I said up here was that, and it wasn't really a hyperwave, but it's still kind of the same idea where you have a prolonged
Yeah.
um, vertical resistance. The price stays under
14,000.
that one. Like you can kind of like if you had a 3 day, you got kind of start to draw in some hyperwaves. Kind of applies, but more of like a blow off topish sort of thing. And Bitcoin has literally never retested the prior all time highs after having like a multi-year bull
Yeah.
run up to 20,000. I never ever thought it would ever test below 20,000. I thought like right here would absolutely be the lows. So yeah,
It did.
like for sure, I don't want to see it returning to 33,000, but there's plenty of precedent that it could do that after, what we saw before. Like, nobody wants to see that shit, but 80 to 80% corrections have become very common. So let's just get an idea of what it would be like. Um, so that's another kind of rule. It's not hyperwave, but it's a parabolic kind of sort of theory where once it ends, we should expect an 80% correction, which
That your measured move there is from 53. Should you be measuring that from 30?
yeah, just kind of trying to see what that would be like. So, anywhere like looking at what potentially that could signal be a decent target for the next high. If we are looking at, an 80% correction down into these levels that we've never seen before, then we can kind of start to look at, oh, well, if it gets to 250 and that's the top, then yes, absolutely, we can start to look at sub 40 down to like 30K prices on the correction. But let's say the next top is much higher, then we can start to look for support above the prior all-time highs. Just kind of something like looking forward in the future. We don't know how far it could go or could last, but revisiting that level is not out of the question after a hyperwave that doesn't go as far as we may like it to.
It's a funny thing to consider, because imagine how good it would feel over the next 12 months to get to 250,000. only to have it go back to, call it 50,000, or say it falls back to 74,000, like that. I'd take that ride. I would take it, even though it would be hard to deal with. But I'm all for that. Let's go.
I would just be reminded of 2017 when we took out 10,000. Like, I mean, nobody was even like thinking about it, talking about it. We were kind of battling around this 75, kind of pretty similar to the 75 we're battling around today. Maybe people were kind of talking about it for ad nauseum for a very long time since the last 1K top. And then once it happened, what did we do? We just shot straight through that. And everybody couldn't believe that we were worth more. One Bitcoin was selling for above 10,000 in here. And then a month or two later, when Bitcoin was down here at 10,000, everybody's like, well, this thing is fucking garbage. Like, I cannot believe that people are
how stupid. So stupid. We're all idiots.
Well, I mean, it's by design. This market is designed to mess with our emotional thresholds.
Your mom's like, I don't know if this Bitcoin money thing is going to work out. Maybe you should take that insurance job or something.
Yeah. So We're talking hyperwave, and we're getting deep into the core of why hyperwaves develop, and it's really the way that it is able to move so much faster in such shorter time than it has for years on end. It's like we get conditioned in our head that this is a big move from 30,000 to 45 in a couple of months. Like it is a big move, but not for Bitcoin. And it has an uncanny ability of making us forget what it is capable of doing, specifically when there's a paradigm shift staring us directly in the eyeballs. So
You remember in 2020, you won't remember this, but I remember watching you. Maybe you were on with Tone, I guess, and the price had just crossed 30,000. It went up to like it broke the all-time high and then came back lower again to about 12 or something like that, and then went back over to 30, and it was like, wow, this $30,000, unbelievable, unbelievable, and you said something to the effect of like, if you think $30,000 is high for Bitcoin, you're totally missing the point. This is nothing. And I remember, I can't remember what you said. Maybe you were way more eloquent than that, but it was, and I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's 30,000 is nothing. But at the time, 30,000 felt like 100,000. Do you know? Do you
yeah,
remember that?
absolutely. And it's kind of the perfect recipe for that psychological. Everybody, like, imagine the euphoria if we hit 100,000, and the how far that is from the prior all-time high. I mean, it's really kind of like a nothing burger for Bitcoin to break above the all-time high and go 50% above.
Yeah.
Like that's just really not something that Bitcoin is going to be shy about doing, I don't think at all. And at the same time, it's going to be something that's going to just be so hard to comprehend in real time that there is six figures for one Bitcoin. So that sort of mental.
You might be wondering why this is a TA show, but basically this is just a conversation. This is a different show than the Daily High. This is Sock and me rapping, and this has been heavy on psychology in this show. And you might be annoyed by that, but this is super relevant because as the price stands right now at $76,000 while recording this show, we are in that phase of every single day might be a new all-time high. In 20 minutes from now, we'll be at a new all-time high. In tomorrow, next week, next month, new all-time high. We're getting to that phase that we were speaking about, how that dopamine is going to start pumping through your veins and through your mind. So everything that we've spoken about in today's show is hyper relevant. I know we were looking back at 2017, but it's relevant like you wouldn't believe right now for your mind. So catch yourself doing these fucking obvious things. I'm talking to myself here. I'm not lecturing you. I'm reinforcing it to myself. I have to pay attention to my own dopamine at this point.
1,000%. I think it's talking TA and talking psychology can be one and the same. I studied psychology in college. I am very passionate about just the chemicals that happen in our brain that cause us to think things that we do and do things that we do. And the only way to ever like capitalize consistently on speculative markets is it starts with mastering the psychology in your brain, because I that is how these markets move. It's not buying selling pressure. If it was, then the billions and billions and billions of dollars that went in at these prices would have caused it to go up, because there's been more buying pressure than selling pressure. What it is it's been challenging us, to challenging our conviction. How much do we believe in what we're investing in? How much does that allow us to get overexposed at the top due to feeling euphoric? And then that's just, if it's a hyperwave, this is just like this is t-ball compared to what's coming. And yeah, I think it's really important to just take some time to go back and look at something like 2017. If you think we're in for another big move, it's a good idea to do batting practice, to kind of like look at the prior moves and just kind of see how just doing that effects, you're like, oh, whoa, whoa, that like
Yeah.
that is.
Put the replay function on for yourself and go through week by week and imagine how it would have felt if you missed it. I was there.
I literally could not recommend that more to anybody who's listening to this, who's literally not just looking for a daily update, but like you're actually trying to make money speculating on a bubble market. It's almost impossible. And go to Google, like look for, this is how I found Hyperwave. Like what are strategies to trade bubble markets? There's almost none. And what bubbles do is they blow out every other reasonable strategy that could consistently profit from some sort of linear market where your oscillator goes up, you sell here, you come back down. That kind of goes out the window in a bubble. And if you're really, really wanting to capitalize, not even needing a lot of money to start, but like actively trading based on objective signals, use the replay function. Go back to prior all-time high breakouts, replay that shit, and just think through, like, is this a buy, is this a sell, is this a hold? Do that time and time again for the next month, and you're going to be fucking ready. You're going to be ready for what's coming. And there's very little way to prepare yourself outside of living through it for 1, 2, maybe 3 cycles. If you can practice enough, nobody before us had a replay function on their chart where you could actually physically test yourself in hindsight using objective models. There's never been such an opportunity to train yourself without risking any money and getting ready for what everybody's going to be looking at in the rearview mirror once we get there and paralyzed. The only people that are going to really be in a position to profit from that are ones who are practicing, preparing, getting themselves ready now, and looking far enough ahead with objective models. So yeah, I really am a big proponent of that replay function because it gets those chemicals in your mind going, especially if you're somebody who's been following charts for years and you see one quick move and you're conditioned to always do the wrong thing. It's unbelievable what these markets do.
Mate, that was brilliant. I reckon we wrap the show up, mate. I know you've probably got 50 charts there to show us, but we could push that to next week or a week after. This has been a really good look at Hyperwave and the potential and the psychology. I think that we put this show on ice because I want this to stand alone and be able to come back and revisit this. This is great. And if we put too much other stuff in it, it'll become irrelevant. So let me know what you think about that.
I love it. I love those are the type of shows that I like to do. Like one thing that kind of bothers me about doing live streams about price action happening right now. Well, it doesn't matter. In 2 days, nobody's going to ever care about what you just took a lot of time to share, and doing things that can actually be valuable not only a couple days from now, but a couple months from now or whatever.
I still go back and watch shows with you and the great Tyler Jenks from 2018, mate. I watch them. I put them on 1x speed so I can get through you and Tyler's bloody.
This is hilarious. I remember Tyler telling me how everybody that had written to him that watches his videos, they always talked about, well, I listened to it on 1.5x speed because you go a little too slow. When you told me that, it blew my mind. I was like, anytime I listen to your stuff, it's slowed down because I'm taking so many notes.
No, my brain's conditioned to take in information a lot faster than that these days. Mate, this could be one of those shows that some 23-year-old guy or girl can look back in 2 years and say, wow, those motherfuckers did well there. All right, guys.
Something else. I'll just add another quick anecdote about what we've been talking about to top off the show. It reminds me of something that a story that I learned from Socrates in philosophy classes, where Socrates talked about how, the real Socrates, obviously, how you could, if somebody's never been to a place, they can talk to somebody that has, and that person can give them all the directions. You go 500 paces this way, you see this tree, you turn right here, and then you run into this trading post. You give them this, what they were looking for to trade, and then he'll give you the directions to the next place. You can, anybody that's been somewhere, they can absolutely help to give directions to somebody who wants to get there but has never been. But giving somebody directions is never giving somebody experience. Like the road has to be traveled individually, no matter how good of directions. I'm not saying I'm giving great directions, but even if you have really good directions, it's still going to be a different path that you travel to get to that same place that you are trying to go, that somebody else has been. So that's a story that's always stuck with me, that hopefully I can provide some sort of roadmap, but the only thing that will be of value is people that are actually able to get there themselves and learn the lessons along the way.
That was pathetic, man. That was beautiful. Did you ever read when you were in high school? We're similar ages. Did you ever read Way of the Peaceful Warrior, Dan Millman?
I didn't know.
It's dated now because you're not a sweet teen anymore. But that book was a fantastic book. The Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. They made a bad movie out of it as well. But yeah, yeah, look into it. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Links in the description below. Brand new bot coming out this next week. Can't wait for you to get involved. Socrates, it is always a pleasure to see you, my friend. Let's get together soon.
Cheers.
Thanks,
Look forward to it.